Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Okay. So today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, Chapter 26, and today we'll be studying text number 33. See here, I'll put it on the screen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Artashayatvam Shabdasya Sashtuhu Lingatvam Eva Cha Tatmatravatham Matratvam Cha Nabhasaha Lakshanam Kavayaha Vidhu Artashayatang Shabdasya Drashturingatvam Evacha Tanmatratvam Cha Nabhaso Lakshanam Kavayo Vidu Artashayatang Shabdasya Drashturingatvam Evacha Tanmatratang Cha Nabhaso Lakshanam Kavayo Vidu Artashayatang Lakshanam kavayovidu.
I'm sorry, we're ready now. Artashrayatvam shabdasya Drashtulingatvam evacha Tanmatratvam cha nabaso Lakshanam kavayo viduhu
Atarasyanvam Satbadasya
Artashayatam shabdasya
Dastruligaptam Evasha
Drashtulingatvam evacha
Tanmatravan Sha Navaso
Tanmatratvam cha nabaso
Lakasam Kavayovidu
Lakshanam kavayo viduhu. Artashayatam shabdasya Drashtulingatvam evacha Tanmatratvam cha nabaso Lakshanam kavayo vidu.
Okay, online. Artashrayatvam shabdasya
Ashturlingatvam evacha Tanmatratvam cha
nabaso
Lakshanam kavayo
viduhu
Artashayatam shabdasya
Artashrayatvam shabdasya
Drashturlingatvam evacha
Drashtulingatvam evacha
Tanmatratvam cha
Tanmatratvam cha nabaso
Lakshanam kavayo viduhu
Lakshanam kavayo viduhu. Okay. Artashrayatvam
Covers the meaning of an object. Shabdasya of sound. Drashtuhu of the speaker. Lingatvam, that which indicates the presence. Eva, also. Cha, and. Tatmatratvam, the subtle element. Cha, and. Nabhasaha, of ether. Lakshanam, definition. Kavayaha, learned persons. Viduhu, no. Persons who are learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether. Purport. It is very clear herein that as soon as we speak of hearing, there must be a speaker. Without a speaker, there is no question of hearing. Therefore, the Vedic knowledge, which is known as Shruti, or that which is received by hearing, is also called Apaurusha. Apaurusha means, quote, not spoken by any person materially created. It is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Hrida. The sound of Brahman or Veda was first impregnated into the heart of Brahma, the original learned man, Adi Kavaye. How did he become learned? Whenever there is learning, there must be a speaker and the process of hearing. But Brahma was the first created being. Who spoke to him? Since no one was there, who was the spiritual master to give knowledge? He was the only living creature. Therefore, the Vedic knowledge was imparted within his heart by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated within everyone as Paramatma. Vedic knowledge is understood to be spoken by the Supreme Lord, and therefore it is free from the defects of material understanding. Material understanding is defective. If we hear something from a conditioned soul, it is full of defects. All material and mundane information is tainted by illusion, error, cheating, and imperfection of the senses. Because the Vedic knowledge was imparted by the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to material creation, it is perfect. If we receive that Vedic knowledge from Brahma in succession, then we receive perfect knowledge. Every word we hear has a meaning behind it. As soon as we hear the word water, there is a substance, water, behind the word. Similarly, as soon as we hear the word God, there is a meaning to it. If we receive that meaning and explanation of, quote, God from God himself, then it is perfect. But if we speculate about the meaning of, quote, God, it is imperfect. Bhagavad Gita, which is the science of God, is spoken by the personality of Godhead himself. This is imperfect knowledge. Mental speculators or so-called philosophers who are researching what is actually God will never understand the nature of God. The science of God has to be understood in disciplic succession from Brahma, who was first instructed about knowledge of God by God himself. We can understand the knowledge of God by hearing Bhagavad Gita from a person authorized in the disciplic succession. When we speak of seeing, there must be form. By our sense perception, the beginning experience is the sky. Sky is the beginning of form, and from the sky other forms emanate. Therefore, the objects of knowledge and sense perception begin from the sky. Persons who are learned and who have true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether. Artha shayatvam shabdasya drashtur lingatvam evacha tanmatratam chanavaso lakshanam kavayo viduhu. So here Prabhupada is describing how we talk about a speaker. As soon as there's some speech, there's a speaker. And in the Vedas, there's something called Akashvani. So Vani means message. We say, Gauravani Pracharine. That person who preaches, Prachar, Pracharine, Gauravani. He's preaching the Gaura, the Vani, the message of Lord Chaitanya, Dev. Oh, yes, Prabhu? Oh, great.
Is reading books seeing or hearing?
reading books is so merciful that you see and hear Krishna. Prabhupada was discussing, he gave one discussion, and he said that these books are recorded kirtans. So reading is hearing. He said it verbatim in that lecture. Reading is hearing. But then he also talked about seeing Krishna on the book, or just even touching the book, or even seeing the book. Some of us may have heard the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada in relation to Alankar Prabhu. So Alankar, at that time, Alankar Prabhu was there in New York City, and he went into a bookstore, and I forgot the name of it, but it was a type of a head shop or something like that, like a kind of a hippie store or smoke shop or something. And inside was the first volumes of Bhagavatam, blue books, and they were there on a little pedestal as you walk in the door on a display. And he saw the book and he was very enchanted. He, of course, he didn't act on that because he was on a party day. So there was parties around, they were going on parties around the city. So he didn't want to bring a book around. I'm actually thinking about this, and I'm thinking if we make a cool cotton side bag, they have these at Trader Joe's, they're really popular. Everyone loves them. But we print our own Hare Krishna logo there, which is really hip and cool. You can do it for pretty cheap. So then we can give a bag, plus a big stack. And plus, it's hard to carry a big stack of books. Anyway, and so he didn't want to take the book with him, but he saw the book. So he credits that moment with his first contact with Prabhupada. So, yeah, we see Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam through the ear. Oh, there is an awesome verse that talks about this too. And Prabhupada discusses it, that actually we see with the ear. How can we see something which is actually beyond our material perception? Just like you can see California if I tell you about it. Okay, if you drive up the coast a little bit, north from LA, right? You go down this highway and there's this big mountain on the side. Okay, and you go down this highway, right? Going north from LA. And on the left-hand side is the ocean. And you go there and you pull into this driveway and you take a walk and then you're on the beach. So I told you, right? How did you see it? Imagination? It was the knowledge transfer through the ear. So actually we see what? Oceanside. You know that place? Yeah. So how do we see? We actually see with the ear. And this is actually the very point that Prabhupada is giving here in the purport, is how do you see Krishna? How can you see Krishna? You can see Krishna, you can understand Krishna in disciplic succession. Or, rather, what is that disciplic succession? That disciplic succession means you actually hear about himself from himself. It means he gives the definitions to the words which are ascribed to his person. So this is an amazing purport, actually, which emphasizes the importance of vocabulary and definitions. And actually our acharyas, even coming from previous saints and sages, they use books called dictionaries. In Prabhupada's purport, sometimes he references the Vedic dictionary, such and such. I forgot the names. Nivruti or different, what? What is it? Naruti or something, different ones, right? There's actually multiple definitions books. And there was actually a project that His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada wanted to do, which was to create a glossary or an encyclopedia which actually redefines all the words in relation to Krishna. Naruti, Narukta, right? So there's different dictionaries. And in those dictionaries, the words are defined, meaning that when this is vibrated, it actually refers to this thing. And you can understand very easily, if we tell one young boy, and we say, this is a joke sometimes, people play on the kids. They say, yeah, they call this, this is called a flap jacket or something. You know, they make some crazy word up or something. Or they, usually, they make some obscene comment, you know? Like, they choose a bad word for something. And they give a definition to something which is innocent to the kid, which is actually a bad word. And now all of a sudden, he's cursing and everyone thinks it's funny. Is that a thing? That's kind of a thing. And why is it? I mean, because he's innocent. And he took me as an authority and I gave him this word definition, which was actually wrong. And then he's using it to define something. He has no idea. He's cursing. And all the other people, they know it means something else. So why is it funny to them? It's not funny to him. Definitions. That's amazing. The conception he has of a vibration, which actually represents something else, actually makes it so it's funny to these people, the parents, and it's not funny to him. He just thinks it's normal. So this is the power of the words, of definitions, of meanings. Now what's really interesting is that if we hear the meaning from Krishna for himself, God is the title. God represents, if you look in the dictionary, right? We commonly understand in the English language. Of course, if you go to somebody who never heard English and you say the word God, they have no idea what you're talking about. Right? So this is why some people, there's a question that came up in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Maharaj Parikshit actually asked, how can transcendental knowledge about the spiritual world be transmitted in this material sound? It's not. This is it here. It's not. Actually, because this vibration, which actually is being transmitted by Krishna, and he says so many amazing things, right? We heard the example of Lord Brahma. Tene Brahma Hrida. In the heart, Tene Brahma Hrida. Inside of the heart of Brahma, there's nobody else in there around. So there has to be somebody who teaches him. Nobody has any experience of learning something which you didn't actually learn from somebody. Of course, now people say, no. When there's a baby deer, the baby deer is born, nobody teaches him. And still he can walk. Right? He gets up, he gets going, he gets some water, he goes to the nipple like that, he gets his grasses, he goes and starts taking a bath or whatever he does. How does he do that? They say that's instinct. They say that's into the DNA. Right? And we say that's preposterous. Somebody is teaching him. He's hearing from somebody. Who is he hearing from? He's hearing from Krishna in the heart. That's an interesting claim. May get some backfire for that, But actually the basic principle of knowledge is hearing. That's why the Vedas are called Shruti, that which is heard. So we have to we have to be chaste in our hearing, actually. And I was just hearing today from Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, he gave some lectures while he was in Vrindavan. And these lectures that he gave on Nectar of Instruction in Vrindavan are amazing. What? He gave Nectar of Devotion? It may be true, though, actually. It may be true that it is Nectar of Devotion. Those are famous. Nectar, I thought it was that he was talking, because there's this part where it talks about just going and having a bath. Just like the elephant who goes, he has to do real prayashchitta. Prayashchitta means atonement, right? So they were reading the book, and I was pretty sure that is from the Nectar of Instruction, right? The example about the elephant. Elephant takes a bath, and just after the bath, he goes on to the bank of the river, and he rolls in the dust. So it's given in the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada puts it in one of his books. It's either Nectar of Devotion or Nectar of Instruction. Do you know? Devotion? Okay. We can fact check it soon. Thank you, devotees. So Nectar of Devotion lectures. So one of these lectures he says, for the neophytes, it's so important that they don't hear from Mayavadis. Why? Prabhupada said, an advanced devotee, he will challenge that rascal, and he will say, you rascal, what are you speaking? But when the Mayavadi actually gets the attention of a Kanishta Adhikari, a beginner, what happens? They get completely bewildered. And what happens? It's stated, milk touched by the lips of a serpent is very poisonous. And that's why, actually, in India, if you do not close the top of your water, if you do not close the top of your things, cover them, then what can go inside? Dust? What else can go inside? Flies? What else can go inside? The stool that's on top of the flies? What else can go inside? Some snake or insect? He can poison that, right? So therefore, actually, it's a common practice to cover the vessels, That's common practice. So, milk. If the milk is touched by a serpent while we're not watching, and we give that milk to a young baby whose body is highly sensitive, or a cat or something, and the cat drinks after that, it may be just strong enough potency to give a poisonous effect. Okay, maybe it doesn't kill because it's not that much transferred. Maybe it does. Depends on the snake probably, right? And how much he wanted to drink. But the idea is, any quantity of poison for a very, very sensitive bhakta is too much poison. What does that mean? What is that poison? That poison is the misconception that I am actually the same as the Supreme Lord. That the jiva is the Paramatma. That misconception is the most misleading and rascal conception that there is. And of course, in this material world, that's the epitome of materialism. That's far out, right? The epitome of materialism is that I myself am God, even though I don't care about anything in this material world. He looks like he's a spiritualist. Actually, he is. Or what you can say, he's actually a transcendentalist. But Prabhupada would say, so-called gurus, pseudo-swamis, right? Why pseudo? Because they're actually claiming transcendentalism, but actually what is it that they are? Right? It's stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that such persons, they only think that they're liberated. What's the phrase? The phrases. Vimukti maninas. Only thinking that they're actually liberated. And that's the highest illusion. Prabhupada called it the last snare of Maya. The last snare of Maya is, I don't care about any of this material sense gratification anymore. The only sense gratification I need is the subtle sense gratification of thinking that I'm actually God, even though I'm completely subjected at every second by the laws of nature. You have to be really thick in it. You have to be really thick in Maya to maintain that rascal conception while we're in this material world. So actually, this is the thing. People need to hear about God from God, about spirituality from God, about the path of spirituality from God, not from some bogus people. What is that? So then you can say, well, why are you speaking? Right? How can you speak? Well, we speak on the order. It said, Amar Guru Haya. On the order of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you speak what you have been spoken to about. And this is actually the quality of the postman. The postman isn't a good postman for so many reasons. I say, when you have a metric chart for the quality of a postman, do you think that it's reasonable to measure, well, his ear is actually 3 inches, and it should be about 2.25 inches. His ear is too big. He's really not a good postman. You think like that? There's another example. If the postman doesn't mow his yard enough, does that mean he's not a good postman? What is a good postman? A good postman goes to the thing on time. He goes to the distribution center on time. He acts properly with all the workers. He gets the goods submissively from the captain there or whatever, and he takes this letters. He doesn't open it up. He doesn't change it up. He says, "Oh, Mr. John, 1, 2, 3 paseo." Okay, here we go. Then he goes on his way. He's timely. He doesn't waste time. He doesn't waste any time delivering the message because he's got a lot of packages to deliver. He goes there and he gives it to him. He's polite. He's friendly. He says, "This is your mail. Thanks for letting me do my job. That's all I got to do." And he's detached. It's his mail. This is amazing. That's a postman. That's what the guru is supposed to be. And that's what the servants of the disciplic succession are also doing. We take the message and we give it. So whatever we heard, we can share. But another thing I heard in these lectures that Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan, he said, doing it like a parrot is not so helpful. Has to be realized knowledge. Has to be realized knowledge. Now, this is interesting because we as devotees, we can get a little self-conscious, or we can get a little, what's the word I want to say? A little, like low self-esteem. Right? So what does it mean to be realized? To actually have it be vijnana? Vijnana means do the program as Prabhupada gave it. Means we're chanting, means we're hearing, we're preaching, we're serving the deities, we're taking prasadam. That means vijnana. We're doing it. I can speak about it because I'm actually doing it. Now, the amount of realization, it goes from very small, then it goes very high. And we actually want to hear it, mostly from those devotees. And when they talk about prasadam, When they say, Krishna is so kind, we're feeding him here. What is wrong with that? He's a person. Krishna's giving you your food. Krishna's giving you your grains and flowers and fruits. What is wrong giving it back to him first? Prabhupada said that in the lecture. But he knows it. How can he speak so strongly like that? He's so kind, he leaves it all for you. He's going to eat it, but he's going to leave it all for you as prasad. What is wrong with that? So as soon as we hear from Prabhupada talk about these things, how much vijnana he has, how much realization that Krishna literally ate it, and it's here for me to eat it again. So we have a little as much as we practice. And Prabhupada, how much practice he has, how much experience and reciprocation with Krishna. When he eats the prasadam, what reciprocation he's feeling. We can't speculate, but we know, he knows, Krishna ate this. So this is amazing. But even the young one, even the one with very small practice, he can share exactly what he got. Say he practiced hearing about Krishna for 1 minute. If he says the same thing he heard about Krishna, he has that much realization and still it's perfect. And still it's perfect. But guess what? That person, maybe he has practice from the other lives. So we don't know who the devotees are, right? So we're encouraged, we practice this Krishna consciousness movement. That's called vijnana. We don't just talk about it like an armchair thing, and we don't do it. That's up to me. That's up to our challenge. That we rise to the occasion. We say, I'm going to practice Krishna bhakti. And I'm going to share it as I heard about it, the science. Even if I can't do it yet perfectly, even if I'm not there, I'm going to speak it as it is, as it was heard. And to the extent of my practice, that much will pass. Or to the extent of the mercy of my spiritual master for passing the real message, then it can come through. It's not my potency, right? It's Krishna's potency. So we just hope to be conduits of that mercy that's coming down from the realized souls. So thank you for tolerating me. Hare Krishna. Would anybody like to add anything? No? Is anybody online there that wants to add?
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I was wanting to share about how Malati Devidasi's daughter, her name is Saraswati, when she would preach, she simply would say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I think at that point she was maybe only 4 years old. So I thought that was a really nice example of no matter how old or young you are, if we just repeat what we hear, then it's perfect knowledge. Or hear from our acharyas and from Krishna directly. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
So thank you very much, everybody. Teaching this movement and practicing Krishna Bhakti. This is the highest welfare work. The highest welfare work is to share this knowledge about Krishna. And the only thing wrong, what's wrong? What's wrong in my life is that I'm trying to enjoy and Krishna's the enjoyer. That's what's wrong. So, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the Sambhava devotees.